Welcome to the Evolution Partners podcast, where I talk with the world's leading thinkers, planners, and doers who are helping to build great companies in their own way. We learn how the work they're doing is creating an impact and get to know a little bit more about them and what makes them tick. This episode is brought to you by Evolution Partners, where we help leaders to confidently build enduring great companies using our proven, structured, strategic planning process that ensures you build and execute the right plan. Check us out at evolutionpartners.com.au. Also, you can check out our books, Made to Thrive, outlining how to be a great CEO, as well as Onboarded, which is about making your new hires more effective faster. Allan Dib is an author and entrepreneur. He's both a thinker, planner, and doer. His book, The One-Page Marketing Plan, is still #1 on Amazon across multiple categories 6 years after release. He's in the top 0.01% of non-fiction authors, and his book has been translated into over 30 languages and has impacted millions of entrepreneurs all over the world. And that's because it's one of the best books on marketing ever written. As an entrepreneur, he's founded, scaled, and successfully exited multiple high-growth businesses across various industries, including IT, telecommunications, and marketing. You can find Allan at leanmarketing.com. Allan, what I see in you is someone who's sharp as a tack, knows what to do and how to do it to achieve serious results without wasted effort. In your book, you say, and I quote, "I like to eliminate fluff and keep things simple," which I feel is important because most people make things more complicated, whereas only a master can make something simple. If that resonates with you, please take a moment and walk us through your entrepreneurial journey and how you came to write these 2 books.
Well, thanks very much, Brad. It's such a pleasure being here, and thank you for the kind words. So look, I do like to make things simple, and where this comes from is because I don't have a background in marketing. I never studied in marketing in university, and in fact, I dropped out of business school. So to me, this is not my natural place where I came from. I started as a dead broke IT geek. And, I thought I was smart enough to start a business, kind of what I think Michael Gerber calls it, an entrepreneurial seizure, right? And so
Yeah.
Where I was working for someone, I thought, why am I working for this idiot? And of course, I became the idiot. So I started as a dead broke IT geek. I was really frustrated for a very long time because I wanted people to know about me, about my service. I had a really good product, had a really good service. Customers really liked me, but I just didn't have enough clients, and I studied everything. I went to seminars, I read books, I did all the work, and a lot of it I did find more complex than it really needed to be. I think the reason the book has been so successful is because I wrote the book I wish I had when I started. I say in the book that I'm going to take you from zero to marketing hero, and literally I started zero, meaning I literally go through a definition of what marketing is, what branding is, all of that sort of stuff. And it's not to say that there aren't books or programs or courses out there that will do that, but certainly at the time I had a lot of trouble finding that. And I had trouble finding it in one sort of self-contained place. Like I'd get a little nugget of knowledge or wisdom from everywhere. I read Seth Godin's books. I went to seminars. I read some of Dan Kennedy's stuff. And so I certainly got value from each and every one of those mentors. But there was nothing that really took me from really knowing nothing to having a pretty comprehensive knowledge of marketing. And I think that's why the book has really hit with an audience, because it really does that. We go from literally zero to being able to, by the end of the book, have a pretty comprehensive grasp of what marketing is, how to implement it, and how to put together a marketing plan that actually works.
Yeah, thank you. Well articulated. The book, The One-Page Marketing Plan, is it's what I love about it. It takes you through all of the journey as to why it's important and what matters, and how to retain customers. So there are these, for the audience, there's a 3x3 where we're going from before and during and after how to retain clients. And I've probably used those words wrong. My apologies.
No, you used it perfectly.
What I want to start with, if we can, marketing can mean different things to different people. So how would you define marketing?
Yeah, so the way I define marketing is it's the strategy that you use to get your ideal customers to know you, like you, and trust you, and ultimately buy from you. And I use the word strategy very deliberately. So, for example, if we think of strategy in any other situation, let's say, for example, in a war situation, the strategy might be, hey, we're going to drive the enemy back to the borders, right? So that's kind of broad strokes what we're going to do. So it's how are we going to use our finite resources, how we're going to allocate our finite resources. And every business, no matter how big or how small, has finite resources. We have finite time, money, energy. So what are we going to do from a marketing perspective that's going to give us the biggest bang for buck? Then once you've got the strategy, that's when you can go for the tactics, like, for example, SEO, pay-per-click marketing or whatever. And again, if we to use the wartime analogy, that might be, okay, we're going to bomb their tanks. We're going to cut off their supply lines, right? So that's how we're going to drive the enemy back to their borders. So from a marketing perspective, a lot of people start with tactics. So they start with, let's do a new website, let's do a rebrand, let's do pay-per-click marketing, throwing a lot of spaghetti against the wall, hoping something sticks. And there's nothing wrong with any of those tactics, but when you're doing random stuff, you're going to get random results. And that's what a lot of people do. So that's why we start with strategy. And so the one-page marketing plan, the book, and the actual plan itself is all about how we're going to allocate our finite time, money, and energy so that we get the biggest bang for buck for achieving what we want. And then we can plug tactics into that.
And that's what's so important, is it's something that stitches it all together. And you kind of made the point, multiple points throughout the book. It's something that stitches it together, whereby if you don't know the customer that you're pursuing, you'll get the customer that you get if you're lucky, if that customer is looking on any particular day. If you do a particular advertisement, or you have a friend who does SEO and you want to use their services, you need something that stitches it all together so that you know that whole journey, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm constantly flabbergasted that people know what their product is, but don't really know who their clients are, who their target market is, or have a very, very loose definition. Like they might say small businesses, or they might say women over 40 or whatever. And, you know, they're all okay starting points, but we want to have a really, really tight, clear definition of who is the ideal client. And a lot of the pushback that people get, especially small businesses, it feels so natural that if you widen the net, if you say, hey, everyone is our target market, that you'll get more business. But it's completely counterintuitive, and it's not the case at all. So very often we've got to actually go much tighter and be much more deliberate about who we go after. Now, that's not to say if someone outside of your very specific niche target market comes to you and wants to buy from you that you have to turn them away. You can if you want to. But it's who are we going to deploy our finite resources to reach? Who are we going to go after actively? Who are we going to spend money to wow and to get in front of and to get their attention? So we want to have a very, very clear idea of who that person is, because otherwise we're just going to be shooting randomly in different directions and hope we hit a target.
Yeah. So we would use the analogy of a pebble in a pond. If you drop a pebble in a pond, you've got these concentric circles. What we would call the core customer is, I think, similar to what you're drawing in on.
Yeah.
That would be at the center. It doesn't mean we're not necessarily going to serve the person at the first ripple or the third, but the further that we get away, the less resources we should be committing to them. How do you react when people say that they've got multiple customers? Because what we're working on is the principle, we need to target the customer. But they might say, well, we sell sunglasses to one type of customer, and then we sell pot plants to another type of customer, or whatever is the silly analogy. How do you respond in that sense?
So a couple of things. So first we want to figure out a couple of things. So, do you have are these completely different target markets, or are they just different segments of the same target market?
Yeah.
So, I'll give you an example. For example, if we sell baby products, so we may sell them direct to consumer. So we're off our website, we may be selling direct to consumer, but we may also have a wholesale channel. So where we supply other retailers who stock the product and all of those sorts of things. So those two are different target markets because wholesalers are going to care about different things that end customers do. The end customer is going to care, does this product work really well? Is it safe for my baby? Is it going to be cute or whatever? And retailers care about that stuff too because they want it to sell through, but they're going to get excited with a different message. They're going to get excited with, hey, this is a really hot product with consumers right now. It's going to fly off the shelves. You're going to make a great profit margin. So if the messaging, if the media that we use, if the target market's different, then we're going to have two different marketing plans for those clients. But the other thing that I would do is also, if you basically exported all of your customers from wherever they live, maybe they're in your accounting system or your CRM system, whatever, and you sorted them in a spreadsheet from most valuable to least valuable, you would start to see clear patterns where, hey, we get most of our revenue from this type of customer or this type of customer. We love working with them. They're profitable. They pay on time. They're easy to work with. They're fun to work with. And then at the bottom, you'll see, man, I really don't want a lot more of those clients. They complain all the time, price sensitive. They always pay late. They're difficult to work with. Always want to speak with the CEO, all of this sort of stuff. And so you want more of the ideal customers, and ideally you want to eliminate or minimize suboptimal clients. So you want to have a look at, do we have different target markets? Do we have different segments? And then am I just taking any revenue that comes my way? Because you'll find that the customers who pay you the most, are the easiest to deal with, you're probably paying less attention to them than you are those, they say the squeaky wheel gets the most oil, right?
Yeah.
So you're paying attention to all of these squeaky wheels, and you're not giving enough love to the customers who are actually awesome.
And the team gets super excited when you say, look, I think we're going to drop those types of customers because they hate dealing with them.
Of course. I mean, they suck a lot of your resources, and there are massive opportunity costs. So it feels like, hey, look, revenue's revenue. We'll take what we can get, but there are massive opportunity costs because if you took the time, money, and energy that you spend on them and deployed it attracting ideal clients, then you would have a massively different business.
Yeah. A lot of marketers tell you that you've got to do more things. We've got to start this, we've got to start this. What I love about your stuff is, and I suspect it's one of the reasons that it resonates so well, is that you're telling people to actually do less. Why is that important?
Very much so. So look, every marketing book you read, every podcast and every YouTube is like, man, I'm adding stuff. Now I've got to do YouTube ads. Now I've got to do a podcast. Now I've got to do, TikTok or whatever. And like I said, none of those things are bad. But again, we want to think very strategically. How are we going to deploy our limited time, money, and energy? And so when I look at some of the best marketers in the world, they actually do very few things. So myself included. So I email to my email list religiously twice a week. We do content on some of our own platforms like our blog. I write books. I'm really not super active on social media. I'm doing a little bit more these days on LinkedIn. But what I'm looking at is, where is the most valuable audiences? So if I had 100,000 TikTok followers, that would be way less valuable than 1,000 email subscribers that are really in my target market, right?
Yeah.
People who've actually got businesses, people who've actually got revenue. So what I'm trying to think of is not just volume, not just how can I get the most followers, how can I get the most whatever. It's like, where are the most valuable audiences? And to me, the most valuable audiences, certainly in my niche, is book readers, is podcast listeners, is email subscribers. So they're the things that I really concentrate on, is where are my most valuable audiences? Also, they happen to be assets that I can control. So my email list, my website, my podcast, all of those things, it'll be very hard to deplatform me. And even though I'm not saying anything crazy or controversial or political or whatever, people have been very surprised by what gets them shadow banned or their account removed or whatever, right? So you don't have to do anything super crazy these days. The rules are very opaque on a lot of social media platforms. And I'm not saying don't do social media. Social media is awesome and it can be really, really powerful. But I look at, where am I going to deploy my scarce resources? So I've got a very small team. I don't want to be working 80 hours a week. I want to have the biggest impact for the least amount of time, money, and effort. And so that's where I deploy a lot of my resources. So a lot of it is thinking about where is your audience and where are the most valuable parts of your audience and really deploying your resources there.
80-20 rule, right?
Totally.
It just transpires everywhere. One of the things that you say in the book is that I'll say that again, the best marketer wins every time.
Yeah.
And it was really quite interesting the way that you built up to that. And I hate when people ask me a question like this because it's like, hang on, where did I build up to that in the book? I don't remember.
It's all good. It's all good.
But look, you make a really good case as that the best product, basically, you can have the best product ever, but if it's not getting marketed or marketed to suit it, to suit the quality of it, then you're not going to actually win. And then you move on to make that case. Again, the best marketer wins every time. Can you explain that concept a bit?
Yeah, so a lot of times, and especially people who have a very clear idea of fairness, of all of this sort of stuff. They believe in meritocracy a lot, and you know, I do too. You know, I would love it if the world was completely fair and everybody who deserved what they got what they got, and so. That's unfortunately not the case in our world, right? Yeah. So if the people who got paid the most were the most deserving, then nurses, firefighters, school teachers would be the highest paid people in our society. But that's really not the case. And so what I really learned is you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. And so in a business context, from a marketing perspective, the best marketer wins every time. It's not the best product, it's the best known product in that category. So, and I experienced that myself in my business. In my first business, I had an IT company, an MSP, and we had a much better product, much better service than a lot of our competitors, but we struggled compared to them. In fact, sometimes they would hire us to upskill them on some of the latest technology. And there they are running rings around us financially, which was incredibly frustrating. And I'm like, I'm a nice guy. I'm smarter than these guys. We have a better product. Why are they doing better financially than we are? And so that was an extreme frustration for me at the time. And so I really learnt that really it's not the best product that wins every time. It's the best known product. It's the best marketed product. So that's an incredibly important realization that even though what you do is awesome, that's more a customer retention technique. That's not a customer acquisition. So before you have customer retention, you have to have customer acquisition.
Yeah, awesome. What I'd love now is if we could do two things. First of all, if you could just explain to us in a sentence, I guess, each of the 9 areas that make up the one-page marketing plan.
Sure.
A, and then B, maybe use that opportunity to move into what that then led to with the next book, Lean Marketing, which is coming out soon.
Sure. So with the one-page marketing plan, as you alluded earlier, the one-page marketing plan is split up. It's a grid, if you're visualizing it, 3 blocks of 3. So the first 3 blocks are the before phase, the second 3 blocks are the during phase, and the last 3 blocks are the after phase. So the before phase is all about how do we attract attention of a target market who just doesn't even know that we exist. And so we want to first define that target market. That's block 1. Then we want to have an attractive message to that target market where they really connect with that message and land. And then we need to reach that target market with a particular media, so whatever media channel is appropriate for them. So that kind of is the before or attraction phase. Then once they're vaguely aware of us and what we do, they've raised their hand, they said, look, I'm kind of interested in what you do. And when I say raise their hand, it could be phoning your office, it could be opting in on your website, it could be clicking your ad, whatever media is relevant for you. So then we want to capture those leads, we want to nurture those leads, and then we want to convert those leads.
Yeah.
So in that phase, we take them from vaguely knowing what we've got to offer to becoming a client and paying, buying our product for the very first time. So a lot of people feel, well, the sale's been made, marketing's well and truly ended by then. And nothing could be further from the truth, because the real money is made in the after phase. So there are really only two ways to make more revenue in your business. You can get more clients, which is what most people focus on, and that's kind of like the sexy stuff, and I love that too. But the other way is to increase the lifetime value of current clients. So how do we get current clients to buy more frequently, buy in more volume, buy in higher tiers and price levels and all of those sorts of things? And that's really what the after phase is about. In the after phase, we deliver a world-class experience. So we give a wow experience to our clients. We increase customer lifetime value, and we've got a few different ways to do that. And then we orchestrate and stimulate referrals. So we create that virtuous cycle where existing clients turn into more clients. So that's essentially a summary of the one-page marketing plan, very short summary, but that's essentially it in a nutshell.
Thank you. And so before I move on to lean marketing, you can obviously get the book, the one-page marketing plan. It's spelled out very well in there. Or where can someone download a copy of the one-page marketing plan for their use before we move on to the next book?
Yeah, sure. The one-page marketing plan canvas is freely available at leanmarketing.com. You can just download it and fill it in. So it's a canvas that will kind of guide you through those 9 blocks of the one-page marketing plan.
It's a bit like, excuse me, I think it's a bit like or I can see inspiration perhaps from the canvas work by Alexander Osterwilder, where and some of the other, like the one-page plan. It's very simple to understand and use, and I don't think once you got it, it wouldn't take too long to get it right.
No, it was all designed actually for you to create a one-page marketing plan within 20, 30 minutes. And in fact, the one-page marketing plan canvas itself preceded the book by a long time. I was using it as a tool in my consulting business because I wanted people to put together a marketing plan, and I got all sorts of resistance. Too difficult, to need to hire a consultant, not sure what to do, all of that sort of thing. And that's why I created that as a tool, and it was a tool long before it was a book. So
yeah.
It's a tool that will help you in your marketing planning process and help you put together a pretty comprehensive plan in a short period of time.
Awesome. Well, thank you. A bit like children, we love all of our children equally, but now let's move on to book number 2, which I'm sure has consumed an enormous amount of your time over the last couple of years.
It sure has.
I'm so excited to hear about this. Tell us about lean marketing.
Yeah, where it's all started was about three or 4 years ago. I was on a speaking tour, and I was in the in the Mexican city of Guanajuato, and I had released the Spanish version of my book, and I was a keynote speaker at a really big industry event. It was for the automotive industry. And I kept hearing this word lean, like I'd bump into someone, say they'd talk about lean manufacturing and then lean thinking and then lean Six Sigma and all of that. And I'm like, what on earth is this lean thing everyone's talking about, right? And then I was chatting to someone who'd read my book, and he introduced himself, said, I'm the founder of the Lean Six Sigma Institute. And he goes, I read your book and I consider that lean marketing. And I'm like, okay, I keep hearing this lean. And so I didn't think of much of it at the time, but afterwards I sort of looked into lean, and I'm like, how was I in business all of these years? And I really didn't know anything about lean, right? And so what lean is, it's essentially a methodology particularly used in manufacturing, but also some other industries, to do more with less. And it's all about really maximizing efficiency and removing waste. And so and I mean, they've literally made a science out of it. And so, principles like Kaizen, which talks about continuous improvement, these all stem from the lean movement. And so that's something that I felt in the marketing process would be revolutionary, because in marketing there's just such a ton of waste, right? So I mean, we've got the John Wanamaker principle, which is, hey, 50% of the marketing I spend is wasted. I just don't know which half. And I'm like, you would never hear that from someone in the manufacturing industry. In manufacturing, they work on, the gold standard is 6 Sigma. And that means that there's, I think, 3.4 defects per million opportunities, right? And so if you think of marketing that doesn't work as a defect, then that starts to really make you think about how much waste there really is. And so I started applying a lot of the lean principles. And, as that fellow, his name is Luis, he said, look, I think of your stuff as kind of lean marketing. And he was right to a lot of extent, because I kind of really simplified a lot of the marketing process. I took a lot of the fluff out of it, as you mentioned earlier. And so I started looking into lean, and I started seeing, how can we apply lean movement principles to marketing? And so I ended up defining 9 principles of lean marketing. I can share a couple of them with you, but I go into them in detail in the book. And it's really about, how do we get more by doing less? And, we talked about that earlier. How do we deploy our resources strategically? How do we make sure that people get the most out of their limited time, money, and energy? And so lean is all about that. How do we do more but actually get bigger results? And in fact, how do we concentrate, and how do we focus our energy more? Meaning, sometimes we will work with a client and say, you're actually doing too much stuff. Let's drop those last 3 things that you're doing, and let's put more energy into those top 3 things. So a lot of times, rather than adding to your to-do list, with lean marketing, we're removing from your to-do list, and we're getting a better result by doing that.
Awesome. And so if the one-page marketing plan book tells you, I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, what needs to be done.
Yes.
Then what is the purpose, or what does the lean marketing book do?
Yeah, lean marketing is all about implementation. So earlier we talked about strategy preceding tactics. So the one-page marketing plan is very much about strategy, very, very much about getting your plan together, getting your strategy together, and that's super important. And lean marketing is all about tactical implementation. Great, I've got my plan. Now what do I do to deploy that? And so really, lean marketing is very, very tactical. We talk about content marketing, we talk about email marketing, we talk about what I call flagship assets and things like that. So the 3 major pillars of lean marketing are tools, assets, and processes. So tools are things like your CRM system, your content management system, all of those sorts of things. Tools can make you massively more efficient, and we're seeing that with AI. So, if I need to smash down a brick wall, I can do that with my bare hands, maybe. I'm going to be in a lot of pain. It's going to take a long time. But if I use a sledgehammer, I can do it within a couple of minutes, right? If I'm using the right tool. The same exact thing applies to marketing. If you're using the right tool, you can achieve so much more with less time, money, and energy. So we call that leverage, right? And so lean marketing is very much about leveraged thinking and leveraged implementation. So that's pillar 1 of lean marketing, is tools. Then is assets. So assets is how the rich get richer. A lot of people complain that the rich get richer, but the reason that the rich get richer is because the rich derive their income from assets, right? So income comes from assets rather than labor. Now, there's nothing wrong with earning from labor, but the problem with earning from labor is the income stops when you stop. It's not very scalable because you've only got 24 hours in a day, and it's not really saleable, right? You can't really sell your job, right?
Yeah.
So, but conversely, an asset an asset can get more valuable over time. An asset is something that can be sold. An asset can derive income. And, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, talks about, assets are things that put money in your pocket. And the
Yeah.
exact same thing is true from a marketing perspective. A marketing asset is something that generates leads, that generates prospects, that generates revenue, that generates clients. By being out there. So, for example, to use my business as an example, my book is a marketing asset. My books now are a marketing asset. The reason you and I are talking right now is because of an asset that I've got out there in the marketplace. And every single day, someone reads my book. They invite me to speak at their events. They want to join one of my programs. They invite me to be a guest on their podcast. And so that's because of an asset that I deployed into the marketplace years ago, an asset that just continues to bring lead flow, that brings opportunities every single day. And so that's the second pillar of lean marketing is let's put together marketing assets that are going to do that for you. And the third pillar is processes. So I often say marketing is a process, not an event. A lot of people treat marketing like an event, meaning it's once and done. They do the new rebrand, they whatever. They let's launch a website, let's whatever, and it's kind of once and done. But marketing is a process, kind of like compound interest, to use another wealth analogy, right? So a lot of people talk about wealth creation through compound interest, right? And I think Einstein said compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world, right? Because you can put $50 a week into an investment account, and then over time that can turn into millions of dollars. How did it happen? Through the magic of compounding. And so the exact same is true from a marketing perspective. If we deploy marketing processes, meaning things that we do daily, weekly, monthly, they compound on each other. And so they really generate huge returns over time, returns in terms of lead flow, in terms of client, deal flow, and just ease of closing. So they're really the three kind of core principles of lean marketing that we talk about. They're really our pillar principle, which is tools, assets, and processes. And they're things that give us massive leverage in our marketing. And leverage is the only way that you can get bigger results by doing less stuff.
Yeah. Awesome. Tools, assets, processes. You speak about a CRM, certainly in the previous book, and the importance of a CRM.
Yes.
I feel that either a lot of average companies don't have a CRM or don't use it properly.
I agree.
What do you think a good CRM looks like? And I'm not asking for the name of a product, but what should it be delivering for a business owner?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a lot of people ask me, what's the best CRM? And I say the best CRM is a CRM you'll actually use, right? And in reality, the actual functionality of various CRM systems is pretty similar these days. So choose the tool that you like, and the one that connects best with your business and your other tools and things like that. So I'm not going to really talk about the specific one that you should have, and varies between industries, but really your CRM system should enable you to, number one, communicate with your clients, and most of them do, obviously, like can we send emails to our clients or other types of messages? It should allow you to segment. So meaning, hey, we can have this kind of segment or that kind of segment. It should allow you to create automations and workflows so that it's working for you rather than you having to manually do everything. So there are a few different functions of reporting. Certainly is an important one. So okay, how did our last email campaign go? What were the open rates? What was the revenue? What was the click-through rates? All of those sorts of things. So there are a few different functions of a CRM system where most people underutilize them. For most people, their CRM system is kind of a static storehouse of data, and you might as well use a spreadsheet, and many companies do just use a spreadsheet instead. But you want your CRM to be actively performing for you, meaning automation is such an important part of a CRM system. So, for example, if someone visits your website, your CRM should be capturing those leads opting in, sending them a welcome sequence, then potentially even tracking what they're, and we don't want to be overly creepy, but this is a core function of a lot of CRM systems, is seeing, oh, hey, Brad opted into our email list and he clicked on all the links related to our coaching program. So now we might score Brad as a high probability lead for coaching and send that as a lead for one of our salespeople to call him. Now that's a clever way to use a CRM system. Many CRM systems have that kind of functionality. So now we've got a lot of automation working and we're not having to do all of this manual work. So that gives us a very leveraged result.
And so I think about what you said there with the value that a business owner should be getting from a CRM, and then I couple that with what you've said before about tools, assets, and processes, and I'm guessing that a CRM is one of the tools. Then, as an investor, if you were to invest in a business, it paints a very different picture. Invest or buy, I should point out.
Of course.
As to what am I actually buying here? Because on the one hand, you've got the P&L and you've got the basic financials that you can look at and hopefully replicate. But it is a true asset when you really dig into it. I mean, a quick case in point. I had a business that I'd founded and sold. And when we got right deep down into the due diligence, it was the CRM, it was the quality and the breadth of the data that we'd accumulated over time. That was the real value that the buyer saw in that. So I guess all of that is really just to say that the value of a CRM, I agree with you, it can't be underestimated.
Totally. And, these tools are so sophisticated now and most businesses are barely scratching the surface. So a lot of the times what we do in our different programs is help people, hey, let's get the right tools in place. Let's get the right assets in place. Let's get the right processes in place. And none of this is actually super genius, mind-blowing stuff. Like this is all common stuff, but it's not common practice. And so a lot of what myself and my team do is help people put this stuff in place and make it make common sense common practice. So let's strategically use your CRM system. Let's get the right assets in place. Let's get the right people and processes in place so that we're doing the stuff that we actually need to get done to get a great result. And so that's how we're going to build leverage in the marketing process and have a lean marketing system where we're getting bigger results by actually doing less stuff.
I think for me, with the couple of books that I've written, one of the greatest compliments that I get is it's easy to read.
Yes.
And I would certainly say that about yours in the same vein. Easy to read in that it is on the surface it's easy to read, but it's easy to understand the concept and easy to implement the concepts. So I'm sure that as you transition to lean marketing and get that out there, it's going to be really effective and impactful for entrepreneurs to get in and read that. So thank you for writing that is what I would say, because I know how much effort goes into it.
That's my pleasure, yeah. I mean, I see it as one of my core duties and my core job as an author is to simplify the complex, because anyone can make something more complex, but where it really takes effort and time and skill is to simplify the complex.
And I have great value for that, which is why I said it at the beginning, because as someone who reads quite a few books, it's very easy to make it more complex. So as I change gears now, I'm currently writing a book about building a better business rather than a bigger business. Nice. So it's about bigger isn't better, better is better. It's very early days. But my question for you is, what would you call a better business? ?
Yeah, well, I would, it really starts with the question, what are you optimizing for? So if you're optimizing for maximum revenue, then a better business is a business that does huge amounts of revenue. If you're optimizing for lifestyle, it's a business that gives you an amazing lifestyle. So it really depends on the business owner's goals. So that's a great starting point for what kind of business do I want to build? What am I optimizing for? Am I optimizing, some people are like, hey, we just want to build a unicorn, exit this SaaS company and make $1 billion. That's totally fine. I'm not, that's personally not my goal. But for many others have that goal, and we're going to work 24 hours a day. We're going to sleep on the floor, and we're just going to get this done. So really, it starts with the question: is what are you optimizing for? Personally, I want to optimize around my lifestyle. I want to have an amazing lifestyle. Yes, I definitely do want to make a lot of profit from my business. But I want to do it within the constraints that I've set up, meaning, hey, I want to work about 25, 30 hours a week. I don't want to work 80 hours. I want the business to be supporting my lifestyle, to work around me. And that definitely means making less revenue than I potentially could if I optimized for revenue. It definitely means saying no to a lot of opportunities. I don't like a lot of travel for obligation purposes. I like travel for fun purposes. So I've optimized around my lifestyle for my own business, but the answer is going to be different for every person. So I would start with that question: is what am I optimizing for? What is the outcome I want? Yeah.
Thank you. Is there a book that you would recommend for our audience?
Yeah, there's a ton of books. I recently finished reading for the second time, actually, April Dunford's book, Obviously Awesome. So I'll be talking to April in a few weeks' time on my podcast. So I reread that book. Really, really good to think about positioning yourself. So what does my product do and who does it do it for is kind of like what positioning is all about. So again, it may seem blindingly obvious to a lot of people, but when you dig below the surface, you start to think about, okay, who is my stuff actually for? Who would be an ideal customer? And then how do we position that to them so that it's really appealing?
Awesome. I didn't, no pun intended. That's good. Thank you. April Dunford, awesome. How can people learn more about you and your business?
Best place is my website is leanmarketing.com. Grab my books. So my first book is the one-page marketing plan. If you're listening to this later than May 2024, my new book, Lean Marketing, is out. If not, you can pre-order it right now as well. So I think it's really my best work yet. So I'm super proud of the one-page marketing plan, and I'm even more proud of the book, Lean Marketing.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a fabulous book. Again, the one-page marketing plan. I encourage all of our listeners to check it out. To be honest, it's so simple, practical, and actionable. Now, Allan, what haven't we discussed today that you wanted to cover off?
I think we've discussed most things. I would circle back and underline something that you brought up earlier: is the best marketer wins every time. So that's something that frustrates a lot of people, but it is the reality. And so what you want to do is really improve your marketing game, whether you're a butcher, baker, candlestick maker, lawyer, doctor, accountant, whatever. You're going to have a bigger impact if you get better at marketing. And so that's what I'd encourage everyone to do listening.
Lovely. Allan, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure, and all the best, although I know you probably don't need it, with the new book, Lean Marketing.
Oh, thank you so much, Brad.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the episode as much as I did. If you'd be kind enough to leave a review for the podcast, that'd be really helpful to other like-minded entrepreneurs, and then we can grow our community. If you want to find out more about our guests, head over to evolutionpartners.com.au/podcast, where you can find show notes and other additional reading. Hope to see you back next week. Until then, keep thriving.